Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for June 25th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great evening, ready for another wild and crazy day in the market. How about we take a look at some of the things that happened overnight and see how that affects our sentiment for the day. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets were mostly higher last night. However, Shanghai continued to sell off a little bit, now falling back below its a very important 3,000 mark, kind of psychological area, 3,000 on the Shanghai. So you'll want to keep an eye on that. But everything else was pretty happy with Nikkei up nearly 1%. If we take a look at European markets, however, European markets are bearish this morning, with the DAX down a full 1% this morning in response to that tech selling that occurred yesterday in the U.S. markets, maybe shifting sentiment here just a little bit on that move. So negative across the board there this morning. If we look at U.S. futures this morning, we have a mix. We have NASDAQ futures trying to gap higher this morning because NVIDIA rebounded overnight by about 3%. S&P 500 futures up, but we've got the Dow futures lower this morning. Let's take a look at our oil sector. Boy, oil had an interesting day yesterday. If we take a look at XLE, big surging moves in many of the oil companies out there, really surging move, trying to break over this downtrend here in the chart. But this morning, we see oil itself just a little bit lower, down 52 cents at 81.11 a barrel. Brent is down 54 cents at 85.47 a barrel. But we have natural gas up this morning just a tiny little bit after a good hold of support in there, and maybe something to be paying attention for a potential buy here soon on UNG. And you can even look at Boyle, a nice bounce here off of that trending area, a little bit of price support in there, so keep an eye on those. Now, if we take a look at precious metals, metals are up this morning. We continue to see GLD, gold, moving higher here today. Right at this exact moment, gold is up $3.60 an ounce, trying to push higher in this little hold of support and potential trend area. We do know that there are quite a few countries around the world continuing to buy gold. Now, I don't know if it is a uncertainty move because of Saudi Arabia coming off the petrodollar. I don't know what's going on here for sure. A little fear maybe coming in, but a little bit of rally coming up here. And one of my favorite patterns in the market is a break of a downtrend and then a hold of a higher low. And so I'm watching this pretty carefully on GLD, and a lot of those miners are starting to come around as well. We also have silver up slightly today. Silver didn't participate with gold yesterday, but catching a little bit of bounce this morning. We got copper and platinum down, but we have palladium continuing trying to move higher. Take a look at palladium here. Big rise here, big pops and drops as well, but coming right up into its downtrend. And you can see it's trying to go up just slightly here this morning, so keep an eye on palladium. Let's take a look at cryptos now. Cryptos had a really rough day yesterday with Bitcoin down more than 4,000 points. This morning, we've got Bitcoin trying to rally back up. If we look at BITO, trying to bounce back up here a little bit this morning, may have a gap in here to fill. Right now, Bitcoin is up $1,500 a coin, and we're green across the board in those cryptos in this wild volatility that we're starting to see here in the market. So what does all that mean for the day? Oh, you know what? We better take a quick look at those bonds. A 2-year bond slipping just a little bit at 4.72%. The 10-year is at 4.22, and the 30-year is at 4.35. So how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, let's take a look at these charts without a bias. Look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. So if we take a look at the diamonds, you can see a nice zooming rally yesterday, but then we ended up losing about 100 points on that break, maybe just a little bit too far, too fast in this rally. Now we're seeing just a little bit of bearishness coming in here on the diamonds. Now, I don't see that as a major problem here because we break that downtrend here. And again, that favorite pattern of mine is break that downtrend, then pull back, consolidate, rest, show me that you can hold a higher low, and then we have a very, very bullish pattern in the chart. So after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days up, a little rest would not be out of question here in the diamonds. So I wouldn't be majorly concerned about this pullback today. But if the bulls can continue to find that bullishness in here, breaking through this resistance is going to be really important. And then we would start looking up into these levels of the chart to see if we can move back toward that resistance high that we see here. And then of course beyond that point, we know we would be up here testing all-time highs in the diamonds and that potential breakout to some blue skies. If the bears were to find inspiration today, then that resting pullback in here certainly wouldn't be a major problem if we held this support. Where a little concern might come in the market is if this were to reverse and break back down below that support area and we'd start coming back down into areas like this, that might raise a little bit more concern. But remember, as long as we hold this downtrend break and hold a higher low from this low here, we still have that opportunity that we could see those bulls step in and swing to the upside. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at the SPY really quickly. SPY, beautiful bullish pattern here, as you can see in the chart. This nice resting pullback coming into play, holding in here on this trend. Every reason to believe that the bulls can continue to push this higher, and if they do, notice that there's a little resistance right in here. That would be the first step, breaking through there. Then of course breaking above this area here puts us into blue skies, new fresh highs in the SPY. But you do have to recognize the fact that maybe big tech that's been pushing this is struggling a little bit now, and if those bears were to find inspiration and push this on down, well, a break below here would be would raise some concern. And certainly we can see how quickly a reversal can happen with what's happened with Nvidia the last couple of days. So watch that carefully. If we do see the bears coming down here to test this area of support and trend, would be very, very important. If it holds, bounces higher, no worries. If it breaks, then we run that risk that we could start filling this gap here, pushing on lower, and then the bigger area price support would be down into this area, and that would certainly raise some concern in the market. Same thing would be the case here for the QQQ with those tech giants pulling back. You can see yesterday coming into this price support here raised a little concern in the market, and that's being actually reflected in other markets around the world now. So watch that carefully. We're trying to bounce back up. Nvidia's got a big start on the day right now. watch that carefully. If the bulls can find inspiration, I think the first thing they need to do is recover yesterday's candle here and then see if we can start progressively pushing back up toward those all-time highs. If the bears maintain a little bit of tenacity here today on those big tech giants and push lower, if we were to drop below here, notice that we could start coming into filling some gaps here in the chart back down to the trend. Now that really wouldn't hurt us at all, but it may raise a little bit of concern if we continue to see selling there. Where it really gets ugly is if we were to start breaking lower than that trend and start coming down into these areas of the chart, testing support. Now remember, we are a long ways away from our 50-day moving average. If we really start a tumble here, this could turn into a painful sell-off, so be prepared for that possibility if those bears were to get going. Right now they're trying to show that they are willing to lift this back up here this morning. We'll see if they can follow through with that after the market opens. And then IWM pushed right up there nice and solid yesterday, but then found that resistance and just backed off right to that resistance in the chart. IWM still maintaining this downtrend, still showing significant weakness. Remember, we don't have the big tech giants here in IWM. We've got them in the diamond, SPY, and QQQ. And as long as they can continue to shove those higher, we're going to see those indexes respond to the upside. Unfortunately, IWM doesn't enjoy that, so we're continuing to languish here in IWM. And I think a possibility that IWM could soon become an interesting short trade. So keep an eye on IWM. And then if we take a look at our VIX, our VIX had an interesting pop and drop yesterday. Gapped up here in the morning, although we were all kinds of bullish first thing in the morning. It gapped up and then started to sell off with that bullish enthusiasm coming in the market. But notice it still held on to a little bit of a positive gain. So looking in this chart, if we were to draw this downtrend in here, notice we're starting to sneak out from underneath that area in that downtrend. Again, one of my favorite patterns coming up out of a bottom. We got this little teeny tiny upside trend in here. I wouldn't hang my head on that trend, but what I would be watching carefully here is if those bulls were to hold any kind of a higher, if the bears were to hold any kind of a higher low in here, that would be something I would pay attention to here in the VIX. But the way we're set up here today and the push that we're seeing in some of the indexes, there's every reason to believe that we could continue to see this come back down. So watch that carefully here. If tech starts to sell off, I would expect a little fear to come into the market. So watch that closely. Our T20s here today, interesting in the T20s, T2122, early on in the day with the big stretch, Dow being up over 370 points, we were up here nearing the bearish reversal zone in T2122. And then as we sold off 100 points in the Dow, that eased up. But notice that we're well above the 50% area here in T2122. So if those bulls find inspiration, every reason to believe that we can push right on up here and check out that bearish reversal zone in the chart. Dow might be a little bit overextended in the short term, but we've certainly seen that resting pullback in the SPY and QQQ be a healthy thing for the index. Now, if those bears were to be inspired, then taking a look down here, we've opened up a pretty good opportunity if those bears would attack to push us back down into that bullish reversal zone. So keep an eye on T2122. Remember, this is the 4-week new high, new low ratio. This is not something that is, you can't fake this, you can't do anything odd with this. When we start reaching these zones here, we start watching for that potential reversal. So kind of being in the middle of the road, anything is possible. If we take a look at our T2108, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, did see a nice little improvement there yesterday, broke through some of this resistance in the chart and snuck out from underneath that downtrend. So we did see an improvement there, but you'll notice the bigger downtrend is still in play here in T2108. And I gotta say, it's not that, we get this sense that our market is incredibly bullish. But when we've only got about 40% of our stocks holding above their 40-day moving average, you got to temper that excitement here just a little bit and not be too rambunctious about racing in or chasing, because we're seeing if it's not tech, it's not really doing much here in the market. So watch that carefully. And our T2107 also improved yesterday, coming up into some resistance and downtrend. But the good news is we're back above the 50% area. A little bit more than half the stocks are above their 200-day moving average. So that's going to be important here to see that continuing to advance. And we want to continue to notice that downtrends are still in play here. So we'll have to watch that pretty closely. Again, not showing us that great strength and showing us how thin our market is right now in leadership. If we take a look at our T2101, well, T2101 had a little bit of a bump yesterday to the upside, but gotta say, not all that impressive here in T2101, because we continue to see that breadth in relatively strong decline here. Now, we still have more downside that could potentially occur in here. We need to see a little bit of increase in breadth, but remember, stocks are now entering their blackout period, and more stocks every day are sliding into that blackout period where they can no longer do corporate buybacks. And corporate buybacks have been a massive portion of the volume of the market over the last couple of weeks. So watch that carefully here if our breadth continues to weaken while we continue to try and push or force the market on higher. Could be a little bit of a problem for us. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Now, our economic calendar, hold on. There it is. Our economic calendar doesn't have a whole lot going on here today, but there are a few notable items that we'll want to be paying attention to. First off, we're going to have Bauman speaking this morning. We got a Chicago Fed National Activity Report. They're looking for this to go a little bit more negative here, from a negative 0.23 to a negative 0.40. So keep an eye on that here this morning before the bell. You can see we've got a Case-Shiller that will be coming in right after the market or open shortly after that. The consensus is, interestingly enough, not giving us any kind of clue as what they're expecting. They're apparently so uncertain that they won't provide a consensus. But they're showing the year-over-year 20-city adjusted as declining just slightly from 7.4 to 7.0. So watch that closely today. We've got a housing price index number coming in. We've got a consumer confidence. This will be important today because our consumer sentiment number was so weak, showing that weakening in the consumer. The consensus is suggesting we fall to 100. That's down from 102. Watch that carefully. Could be one of the more market moving numbers of the day. And then we got a Richmond Fed manufacturing, and they are actually suggesting that Richmond Fed will come up or improve to 2, up from a 0 on its last reading. We've got Cook speaking here today. We've got a 2-year bond auction. Money supply will be later today, and then Bauman will be speaking again. As we look into Wednesday, just kind of keep in mind mortgage applications, new home sales, petroleum status, and some bond auctions in there on Wednesday. Still pretty light as we start thinking about the GDP number and that personal incomes and outlays and inflation number that we'll want to be paying attention to heading into Friday. So let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. And our earnings calendar, well, actually pretty light this time of year. It's kind of something you would expect, but we do have a couple today. We have SNX that will be reporting this morning. Keep an eye on SNX. And then this afternoon, we're going to get our most notable, probably FDX is going to be that. FedEx trying to gap up a little bit, little dark cloud cover maybe coming into that in the pre-market here, but that will be after the bell. PRGS will be reporting after the bell, and WOR as those notables for today. So keep a close eye on that. How about we take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today? But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find the videos to be worthy, helpful for your trading, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. And I do try to answer all of those comments. So thank you so much for your time and effort there. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But remember, guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market. And remember that you need to follow your rules and your risk tolerances, and you should never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. So first off, let's take a look at a couple things that have been showing some signs of, well, some good price patterns here. Take a look at Uber. Nice little Uber higher low starting to happen here after breaking that downtrend. So again, there's that pattern I love. And you can see held a little bit of price support, buyers stepping up here, and maybe a follow through coming in that on this morning. I would be keeping a close eye on Uber. And besides that, if we take a look at Lyft is going the other direction. So I think in Lyft, any rally back now would set up a potential short trade here on Lyft. So keep a close eye on that. Uber and Lyft absolutely opposed to each other, not only in business but in their charts. So watch that carefully. Take a look at NetApp. NetApp could be setting up here. I placed a price alert on that chart, and beautiful upside trend, very concise, very consistent. Now resting and going sideways here. If it holds on to that trend, you can see it tried to go yesterday, couldn't quite get her done or hold as that tech sell-off occurred. But if tech starts picking up here today, NetApp might be something to pay attention to for that next move to the upside. I would watch that pretty closely here in the market. Boy, if we take a look at energy stocks, a lot of stocks made some pretty good moves yesterday. And let's take a look at Occidental, one of Warren Buffett's favorite. I think Warren Buffett now owns over 25% of this company, and a big solid move yesterday in OXY. So any kind of rest consolidation that comes back into this trend, I would be looking for that next opportunity to maybe pick up something in Occidental. Looking really good, and there's just a ton of these oil sector stocks making breakouts of downtrends. ConocoPhillips breaking out. Any rest or pullback sets up that higher low, could offer up an opportunity there. We saw MRO making a good move here. breaking through this downtrend. Nice popping strong move to the upside. Any resting pullback in there would set up an opportunity on that. Also, you might want to take a look at exploration stocks. Exploration stocks had a nice big pop yesterday, still in a downtrend, but there's going to be stocks in that sector that show some nice bullish patterns here. Take a look at CRC breaking higher here in the chart, BRY coming up out of a bottom. So take a look at some of those. There could be some bullish patterns in there that might be just what the doctor ordered. Having said that, let's take a look at our financials. Financials had a good day yesterday as well. Nice little push to the upside. There's that break of that downtrend. We pulled back just one day and saw those bulls step up. I would watch this area right in here, a little bit of price resistance. So if we see XLF kind of rest back, you can see we got a little pullback going this morning. If we were to rest back in here, I would look for that next opportunity, potentially in those financials to stretch on up here and test these highs. And you can look at some stocks here like Visa trying to break the downtrend, MasterCard working that downtrend break. Nice stretch to the upside, probably needs a little bit of rest. Keep an eye on that. You could look at SQ breaking up out of this downtrend yesterday. Now, we've done this before and failed, and that's why we want to hold or want to see proof of a higher low. No knee-jerk reaction trading here. Pop up, rest back, hold a higher low, then look for your opportunity into that trade. So quite a few of those financials starting to make a move back to the upside. As you remember, right at the beginning of the video this morning, I was suggesting keeping an eye here on gold, precious metals, starting to show some signs of life. Now, if we look at stocks like Newmont Mining here and gold, nice little resting consolidating pattern after breaking through that downtrend. I would be watching for that opportunity for that to pop through. Barrick Gold breaking that downtrend, resting pattern, trying to hold. I would look for that opportunity there. You could look at stocks like GDX. Hasn't broken the downtrend yet, trying to hold in here, a nice little consolidating move. So you might watch for that pop to see if that could pop through to the top side if gold continues to make this run up. Watch that carefully. Take a look at some of those tech stocks out there. Google continuing to show bullishness after breaking through this resistance. Notice that it did not affect Google yesterday in that selling. Held up in here really strongly. Keep an eye on that for that next upside opportunity. I had mentioned AMD yesterday, and I'm wondering if AMD is going to become a short. And yesterday it tried to pop just a little bit and then faded back with the rest of tech. I still want to watch this pretty closely. We are moving in a downtrend, and I don't think it would take a whole lot for this to get shoved off of that cliff edge right there and start moving on down. But that being said, with the bullishness coming in the pre-market today, we should watch for that possibility. It could pop to the upside. And again, not something I'm going to chase until it puts in a higher low. That's how an uptrend begins. We've got to break the downtrend, hold a higher low, then there's an opportunity for a trade there. Otherwise, you get caught in a whole lot of fake runs to the upside and end up getting stopped out. So with that, guys, there's a few stocks for you to look at today. I want to say thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Be careful, be safe, have a wonderful day, and I will see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Have a great day, everyone.